This is The Great Outdoors with Jason White, exploring the great outdoors in Pennsylvania and beyond. Brought to you by the Mariana Outdoorsmen Association and by Wild Acres Farm, Fishery, and Regulated Hunting Grounds. Now, The Great Outdoors with Jason White.
Hello, friends. I'm Jason White with my co-host today, James Whip Shetler. How you doing, Whip?
Oh, I'm doing fine, Jason, and thank you for the invite again. I'd like to be a part of your show as well as to promote some of the things that we're doing on the dog tag. And one of the main issues that we're pushing is to make people aware of the 988, the Veteran Crisis Line that serves for our veterans as well. It serves nationwide for the non-veteran. And it's important, folks. It was initiated a year ago, make it easier and simpler to identify that number in case that you have a friend or a family that has a personality change, and you can see that there's something that's bothering them. They're dealing with, some PTSD or something that's demonic, and hopefully we get them in the balance of their body, mind, and spirit.
Well, thank you for sharing that, Whip. Again, that's 988, press pound 1, and that's a Veterans Crisis Line. We're going to dive right into it. It's been an exciting week. We had a farm-to-table event actually out at Wild Acres this past weekend. Really lucked out because the weather really kind of got shoddy across Pennsylvania. There were tornadoes. It was kind of crazy, actually, but we didn't get any rain until it was about 9 o'clock, but when it did come, it definitely came. But it was definitely an amazing event. Really would like to thank 19 North and President's Pub out of Washington, PA. You and the others that came to volunteer and help out, Whip, really thankful for that.
Well, I'll tell you what, I was totally taken back, too, because what I focused on and seen was there was all age groups there, from kids to vintage. I'd like to address our elderly as vintage groups of people, and the bands and the music as well as the food. I mean, it was just a great scenario. And I want to point out, folks, that was the first time ever that you as well as the board members promoted that.
Yeah, it was the first time we ever did that, and it was, we wanted to get our feet wet, trying to get more just more events, partnering with different groups, in southwestern PA. And because of that success, we're actually going to be, it's not going to be for us, but we're going to be partnering, you quote me if I'm wrong, with the benefit and the PA vet pets.
We're initiating that, yes, as well as our own program, the dog tag program, yes, which has been highly successful. And let me tell you something, folks. Having a conversation with a director that did research and development and worked with Walter Reed, we kind of what we did was we took what they had done in research and implemented it to the actual outdoor recreational activity that the MOA has to offer. And anybody, I don't care if it's not the idea of the hunting and the fishing or walking the trails, it's the building of a community, it's building of a camaraderie and a connection, So when we sit around the campfire and just tell stories, it's a relaxing area. When we go and sit down by the stream and watch a bobber, it's a relaxing area. And it does have positive impact on that individual as well as the families. I've witnessed and had been told, some conversations that were between me and that veteran, as well as even the first responder. And it was better than monetary payment to see the change in that person's life just because of what you offer, Jason, at the Mariana Outdoors Association. When I seen a paralyzed veteran in a wheelchair, that when we put him up on the disabled ramp and he cast the line into the stream, which, by the way, that'll be coming up too, the stalking, we'll be resuming that.
Yeah, so in sequence of, I wanted to jump into like the events that
we'll
are kind of
the order.
The order. So, sorry, I needed to pull up my calendar real quick. So basically for the rest of this month, we're kind of just getting everything ready for hunting season. We're getting ready to do the habitat project on Daniels Run. We've actually been already having like loads of boulders brought in, so I'm really excited about that. We're going to be
No, I'm going to stop you right there. Explain to our audience, when you're taking and doing the conservation down there at Daniels Run with, you say, the boulders and everything.
Yeah.
What's the benefit of that?
So there's numerous benefits. Anybody that, if you have the opportunity, actually we have a really good educational video on our YouTube channel. You can get the link for our YouTube channel on our website, MarianaOutdoors.com. There's numerous videos. If you go on our Facebook page, Mariana Outdoorsman Association, Instagram, and also you can check us out, again, MarianaOutdoors.com. But all these videos are out there. Basically what I did was I made a video to answer your question. I wanted to break down the benefits of what we're doing. We have a cold water fishery in Daniels Run, and cold water is like a key thing when it comes to trout. They're cold water fish. They're basically, think of them like the opposite side of the spectrum from catfish or a bass. You know, bass and catfish are more active in the summer. Trout are inactive in the summer. Vice versa, trout are extremely active when the water gets cold. Those other warm water species are not. So we have a cold water stream called Daniels Run, and we needed to incorporate some other factors into it to enhance that habitat. So we're putting these boulders in. They're called rock deflectors, and they're called rock cross veins. So if you go and Google what that looks like, or again, you can check out our video. Basically what we're trying to do is deepen the water in areas for giving the fish more cover, basically protecting it from predators, whether that be raccoons, fisher, mink, those types of things, bald eagles. I can tell you if a trout is too close to the surface, definitely a bald eagle or even an osprey will come down, swoop down, and grab them. So that's important. So depth of water is really crucial. Depth of water also creates more space for bait fish and different, things for the fish to eat. And then the other thing is these boulders and the way we design this, we're basically kind of creating a little cascading effect, or I would call it a small looking waterfall if you really look at it. Just putting more oxygen in the water. Oxygen is also very critical for trout. So, we're creating a really good ecosystem, aquatic ecosystem for the fish. Really good stream bank stabilization. Really dealing with the depth of the water. It even helps address some flooding issues that we were even having, because we just had like debris and stuff piled up, tires and TVs and things we've cleaned out of the stream. So tremendous amount of benefits. Anybody ever wants to come and actually see what we've done and what we're doing, by all means, Mariana Outdoors, Outdoorsman Association of Facebook. You can go to MarianaOutdoors.com, come schedule a tour. Happy to show you around. But yeah, we're going to be doing that here the first week of September. Also, we're going to be opening back up for the upland bird hunting sooner than later. For any hunters out there in general, archery season's the last Saturday of September. Really excited about that. I'm going to circle back on that because there are parts of the state that actually open up the middle Saturday of September. I believe it's the 15th. I really think that's something that needs to be explored about being expanded, because I really don't understand the ideology to have 3 hunting zones that open early, and then the rest of the state is closest Saturday to October 1st. But here nor there, first Friday of October, we're going to be stocking trout. And by that juncture, we'll be back into the full swing of things.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. But more important, what you explained too, what I see, and I've seen and viewed on others, is the relaxation of just watching that mini waterfall. I've seen the joy of a little boy in a wheelchair catching his first fish. Mm-hmm. Okay. I've seen the same thing that occurred that I witnessed. I didn't know whether to grab that paralyzed veteran, him, the wheelchair, or his pole. And that was all excitement drawn to by Daniel's Run, which you're improving, and we are.
We got a lot going on right now, but we're kind of Daniel's Run's this is our 5th year of doing projects there. I would have loved to have done it all at once. That would have been fantastic, but just financially, just wasn't really realistic. So we've been just pecking away at it every year.
Yeah, but let me point out, Jason, and to you folks also, it's one thing to have a conversation about a certain program in a certain direction you want to go. That's one thing. Then you do create it and get the word out. That's another. Then to maintain it, and then you go about how in your creative mind, how do you maintain it and keep it running? Say, oh yeah, they started this or they started that, and now they dissolved it. So I give our board members and all the volunteers credit because we've maintained from that day when we started Daniel's Run the clearing of that area, and to where it's at now, it's in steps. You take the first step to get it upstairs into the house. So a multitude of steps is taken to make the improvement of Daniel's Run is what I'm getting at.
Well, there's other places. There's other examples where groups have done habitat projects across the Commonwealth, and they've done grant programs, and they've spent. I've seen projects where I've heard that were in the $250,000, if not more. We haven't done that. We haven't taken that approach. We've tried to do it all with our own efforts, us raising the money. We've done it in phases. Yeah, would I have loved to have gotten done a few years ago? Yeah, I would have. But this year we're going to be working on 7. Basically, we'll call them 7 waterfalls. We're going to be actually building them bigger and shoring them up. We have an embankment that we have to deal with some, we'll call it erosion issues, dealing with that with some stone deflectors, and then we're going to build a brand new rock cross vein. So that's a pretty decent sized project. I'm really excited about it. Anybody that wants to come check it out, like I said, we're going to be stocking the first Friday in October, so it'll kind of be on full display for everybody to see, like the fruits of our efforts.
Now, I want to throw this out too. You're talking about all these cascades and everything and such to go ahead and do that. But prior to that, the depth and the time frame to get permission and permits and all that entailed, that was just a quagmire.
My last show, actually, I kind of broke this down in some detail about how to fix permitting in Pennsylvania. But, yeah, it's been...
behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes, it's been a lot of work, a lot of volunteer hours just to permit applications, design, going back and forth with the different agencies, because when you do the easiest permit in Pennsylvania, if you live in, depending on what county you live in, you have to deal with sometimes 3 or more agencies. So, it's been a grind. But like I said, on a positive note, we're making it happen. It's going in this year. We're really excited about it, really excited for people to get to enjoy that in October whenever we start stocking trout. The Upland bird stuff, first week of September, we'll start stocking birds every week. So I'm really excited about that.
I can't wait to hear the echo of the cackling.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be here very, very soon. Now that being said, you had mentioned about the deer hunting and like those types of things. So, I've talked on past shows about my involvement with Pennsylvania Farm Bureau, and one of the things that's become a big issue, I know Dudas Farm was speaking about this recently, is the crop damages because of deer.
Oh, yeah.
And we're definitely seeing it here in southwestern Pennsylvania, where there's definitely not enough, deer harvesting taking place, which I think is a long conversation, because there's a multitude of things, from kids not being taught anymore. It's really some of these things have been, I would say, in some capacities, removed from our culture. You got some people contesting about, guns and and those types of things. But I think at the root of it, you got to start pecking away, like looking at little things. I mentioned earlier about the two separate opening days. I don't really understand. It makes sense to me to just open it up the middle of September and give everybody the extra 2 weeks to hunt. 2 extra weeks means a lot to people, especially that have work schedules and life in general.
Well, see, my opinion on that, Jason, is the lack of interest anymore, because you walk the fields and you walk, and maybe by just stroke of luck, whether it be you or a dog, would kick up a rabbit. Mm-hmm. It's almost a rarity. Same thing with a pheasant. And with you and the Mariana bringing in the stock of, the pheasant, the quail, the chuckers, it revives and relives what I had with my brothers and my dad, the youth of when we went out to hunt. We knew that we better bring more than a box of shells.
Well, you start looking at that like, we've created an atmosphere for people to come and enjoy. But it's sad because farming as a whole has declined across the board. The farms that are left, some of them do exist to survive as a business. Some of them are hobby farms. I mean, you talk to people, even within the Farm Bureau, they'll openly say that. People admit it. There are people that just farm just as that it's like an old thing that, that their family did, so they do it in that capacity. It's not that they survive off of it or that they even rely on it. It's just something, it's no different than people going out, deer hunting on opening day. It's just something that, hey, we're going to cut the hay this summer and we're going to put up hay and maybe just sell it locally to the local folks. I mean, that's what happens.
Yes.
We've created so many barriers for the market.
You were fortunate because you had the instructions from your grandpap on down through the nature skills or life skills, I want to say, in various areas. We're lacking that. We're not giving our youth that engagement.
Well, we're not teaching kids. So let's break down this issue a little bit. We're not breaking down. Kids aren't being taught about hunting in schools or trapping or fishing. I remember I tried to get into one school to try to do some of these different programs because, for example, like Fish Commission, they have some programs that are based upon aqua science, environmental science, etc. And I literally had some different people, parents, and even some councilmen basically mock me and were like, kids shouldn't be learning about fishing. They should be learning about, mathematics and I'm just like, wow, in my mind, I was like, wow, you're so disconnected from reality. Like there's so much science or so much math. It's your ability to take those things and teach them in a classroom setting is where the failure was, or where the lack of sight was, or vision of what it could be. So I strongly believe those things should be taught. I think that there should be classes where, just like, for example, if you combined the thoughts of, let's say, 4-H, Boy Scouts, and I could take a couple other groups, even your local hunting and fishing clubs. To me, I don't see any reason that there isn't a class, a wilderness class or an outdoors class in schools where they teach these different things and piggyback on the sciences, piggyback on the math, piggyback on the biology, environmental science, etc. Even cooking. I mean, how many kids today are even taught in schools about cooking or baking or like those types of things? So I mean, wood shop's been taken out of schools. I know where I went to high school, they took the wood shop out and put a gym in there because everybody's going to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I guess, because they're going to, everybody's going to lift weights and be the next,
Michael Jordan.
Yeah, the next Michael Jordan. I think we've lost sight on so many different things.
But most important, too, let's say that we had a crisis, a food shortage or some development that occurred. If you know the talent and the tactics of hunting, you could survive. If you know how to go and fish, you could survive. If you know how to do trapping, you could survive. If you identify the agriculture nature, so there are certain trees out there or certain plants out there that could provide you nourishment. Okay, those are all lost art. Those are all lost items. You know, I mean, they may be in certain segments of people out there that are still holding on to that, but the majority, back in the day when it was a family-oriented movement, we would take, and from grandma to the youth, we would take and have a picking of berries or apples or, you know, whatever may be the focus in on that day. Grandma she would make not only her jellies, she would make her pies and all the, you know, the dessert end of it. Grandpa would make his wines, okay? But we did it as a family. We don't do that no more. And the nourishment of what was there to be picked was at your convenience, but you knew how to survive. You know, today, if the store is closed, oh my goodness, it's a tragedy. You know.
Well, my grandfather used to have down in his cellar shelves and shelves and shelves of canned goods that he, you know, made himself. Jars of goods and just different things that, you know, that he did himself in house. So I think,
yep,
you know, that's lost arts, things that, you know, we've really gotten away from. We're not teaching. The family dynamic in its own regard that's a whole nother conversation.
Well, it's going to be coming up here before the show's ended because I want to bring something out that the MOA has initiated and working in a relationship with the youth. And as the time before we close, I don't know where we're at in the time process, but I want to inject what we've done for, I think it's going to be our 5th encounter with the youth of Washington County and surrounding area.
So we've been, you know, engaging the kids and trying to get them to be more involved, hands-on with different projects, whether, you know, we worked on a barn floor, did that in the past. We've built flight pens, simple things like spread and mulch, landscaping. We're actually going to be working this upcoming week. I'm doing a project. We're going to be cleaning out an old barn for future, at some juncture, renovations. But it's sad to say that there are so many kids that either don't have access to the things that we're talking about, whether that's the outdoors in general, a mentor. You wouldn't believe how many kids just lack a mentor in their lives.
That leadership role is lacked.
And
then you got to think too that maybe their parents or their guardians may not have had that opportunity either. It may have slipped through the cracks, or they may be even embarrassed to get into the topic as such.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so there's a multitude of things. And here's another thing. And folks, what I'm talking about is through the efforts of Jason and our board members, we partnered up with the juvenile probation officers, bringing the youth out to teach them certain skills, certain tasks. And I was amazed that when I asked a few of the young persons that were their age, and they're telling me 12 years old. I said, what? 12 years old, already stepping off the curb, as I call it. We got to get them back in the mainstream. Well, we've initiated that, and I think this is our 5th time that we've had them out, starting tomorrow, as a matter of fact. And so we asked, you know, personal questions, not, you know, nothing deep or what did you do or, you know, that, but simple things like, well, do you fish or no, I don't even know how to fish. So we want to incorporate that into the tasks that, you know, we're teaching them to, you know, what mulch is, what a difference between a straight screwdriver and a Phillips screwdriver is, painting, you know, the different size brushes, the different, you know, flat paint, high gloss satin, you know, that whole variety of just letting them know these are the selections that down the road maybe they'll encounter, and, you know, go from there and bring them back into the mainstream, bring them to the idea that they too could be a future leader, that they're, you know, yeah, they made a mistake. We all make mistakes. But with that, having said that, we are trying to instill in them that they have something to offer, something that would be productive for society.
Well, no matter what, it comes down to being mentors. It comes down to educating kids. It comes down to creating a free market for kids to be able to get into. And, you know, speaking of free market and like that kind of thing, taking down some red tape, these issues with permitting, they're not enticing for a kid to want to get involved in what we do with when it comes to even habitat improvement. Like I was lucky enough, not only with my education, but also my experience with the coal company, where I learned permitting and I dealt with all that on a big scale. So I had a unique set of circumstances that allowed me to be able to go through these processes. For the average person that maybe didn't have that, are you going to come out of school with no knowledge and say, oh, well, I'm going to go through, all these layers and hoops with permits to try to do habitat? People aren't even going to know where to start. And it's no different than fishing or hunting or gardening or the agricultural side of things, teaching kids basic things. And it's not always about, and I don't want anybody to feel like we're pushing this on everybody, but it's at least giving a kid or a person at least the opportunity to experience it. It's not that they have to do it. It's no different than when you go to college and they say, oh, well, you have to take these gen eds because it makes you well-rounded. Well, yeah, okay, that's fine. These other things I think are extremely well-rounding in a human being. And I think it's a shame that you go to college and freaking kid, outside of putting ramen noodles in the microwave, how many kids actually are taught how to cook? Or how many kids are actually taught how to balance a checkbook? Or how many kids are actually taught, I don't know, like for example, why do you and I were talking about this earlier about just like all the predators? Why is there no rabbits anymore? Well, we've mismanaged. We don't have farms anymore. The market's gone so kaput that people aren't trapping like they used to. Every farmer used to have a trap line around his farm because you didn't want the predators killing all your chickens. You don't want the predators killing your lambs or anything small. With farms going away, people aren't as protective. And when I say protective, it's like I never heard of, until probably past 10 years, like hearing about a bear outside of like going up on a mountain somewhere was like a rare thing. I mean, I was on the way to the station today and almost hit a huge bear right at Brownsville, coming on 43. The thing come across the highway. I mean, I was super close to hitting it. Like it was big bear.
Georgia, didn't it?
That was that got me going. I was like, holy heck. Big black thing comes across. It was well over 200 pounds. It was big. Like it was a big bear. It was no small bear, no yearling, not even a 2-year-old. I mean, this was a big bear. And I was like, holy smokes. But the point is, you don't have the hunters, even with that. Like, I'm hearing about all these crop damages because of the deer damage. Well, why are we not, to my point, extend the archery season? Sunday hunting. We need to allow Sunday hunting. The NFL owns a day of the week. Like, allow people that opportunity. There's no reason that we can't do it. Then people will give the argument, well, it's because of trespassing. Listen, criminal trespass is criminal Monday through Saturday. It should be held to the same standard on Sunday. Like, holy smokes.
Yep.
I've dealt with that myself. This, other states have bounty programs on some of these predators. We don't do that in Pennsylvania. You start dissecting these things, and it's like, I hate to say it, but it's almost like we've opened up the dictionary and we're living it with insanity. It's like we think we're going to keep doing the same things and we're going to get a different result, and we're not. And if anything, some of these things just kind of...
We're deteriorating.
Well, you're deteriorating with these... kids being on a bad path. We're deteriorating we're not creating them a good chance whenever you just start breaking it all apart, the opportunities, the hunt and fish.
Well, the impression I get, Jason, I'm going to jump back to those children. I'm talking 12 to 17 years of age. But when we instruct them, whether it be you, me, or, any of our members, they seem hungry. They seem that they're really focused in on learning, and there is where the gap of something's missing.
Well, yeah. I think we got to really, I don't know how everybody else feels out there, but I think as a society, I got to question the fact if we succeeded or failed when I see this many kids that are headed down a bad path.
Yeah.
Like, where where are you trying to lead them? Because to me, it's like we're just letting them go out to the ocean and to sink.
Well, that too, and then you'll hear people complain. All they do is they want to sit and play video games, or all they do is they getting into mischief or whatever. Well, what are you doing about it? Why don't you get a form or a group like we are and get some kind of initiation going and survive rescue those youth?
Well, and that's that parents anymore become so consumed in their TikTok lives. They're posting on social media every minute of the day, making sure everybody knows how fabulous their lives
there's
are.
A lot of distractions.
But yet you got kids that are sitting there then watching what they're doing, which I think is its own problem, where these parents need to pay more attention to their kids and get off the internet and start acknowledging their children. Take them to the zoo, take your kids fishing, go on a kayaking trip, go visit Ohio Powell, go to I don't know, go do something for the day, go skip rocks down a creek.
Well, I was most fortunate because when I was growing up, Dad always wanted to go to the country. And he would make it him and Mom would make it such an event that we would sit, whether we went to the mountains or out in the country somewhere, he'd have a little picnic table picked out, or, whether it be peanut butter and jelly sandwiches or whatever. We thought that was a huge ordeal. And then when we start free hunting, right before hunting season, to get him as well as the dog and myself aware of the sound of the dog, how it would, run a rabbit and bring it back. And he engaged in showing us the safety and, not only just when the dog was in the program of running that, to be aware of where that dog was at that given time. Same with my brothers. And then when you were given that first gun, whether it be a 410 or a 20 gauge shotgun, you thought, my goodness, look at me. And it was just a developing, learning process. And then you became, seasoned and became more experienced, and you enjoyed and you flavored. Wow, God made such a beautiful nature environment for me. What a beautiful, just to be outdoors. And they even say that whether you hunt or you don't hunt, 15 minutes a day outdoors is so healthy for the body, the mind, the spirit, to become more connected in that arena.
Well, I'm really a proponent that people need to get out and enjoy the outside, whether they just go for a walk, whether they go golfing. I've said this on past shows. I mean, to me, golfing is actually being in the outdoors. I've been on golf courses and seen a tremendous amount of wildlife, whether that's deer, turkeys. I've been down in North Carolina, see those wild goats and sheep that people just have down there. They're wild running around in the woods. Bald eagles, osprey. Geez, I could go on and on with the different things I've seen just on a golf course. So, I mean, there's
different
lot.
areas offer different wildlife. Exactly.
And that's when you're out, just on, even like today, driving down the road and boom, there's a giant bear crosses the highway. I mean, it's just you never know what you're going to see when you're on the move. When you're
speaking of that location, that's not too far from my place. So
no, I was very close to the Brownsville Drive-In. That's where I was.
Well, it would be on just a couple minutes from there. That's where my location of residence is.
I was in a close proximity to. I was in a extremely close proximity to the Brownsville Drive-In. But yeah, it was a very, very large bear, biggest one I've ever seen in person. Pretty hefty, nice looking bear. But yeah, I mean. You got, and those are beautiful to look at, but they create their own challenges, right? Next thing you know, they're in everybody's trash cans, dumpsters, and geez, you even see those videos, different parts of the country where they're climbing in people's bedroom windows. But definitely a beautiful animal.
Now, earlier in the show, you had mentioned that we were going to resume bringing in the pheasants. Now, that's going to occur in September, first week in September?
Yes. We're going to start, well, I have birds on hand first week of September. We're going to start stocking quail and chukars starting in September. And then once we get into October and it gets a little cooler.
Yeah.
Usually Usually by that second week in October, you're pretty good because it cools off enough because the dogs get overheated and it just kind of. I've seen dogs overheat.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
that's a bad thing.
We don't want to do that.
You don't want that. You
No.
got to make sure. I mean, people that go out now, like when we open up in September, usually they're hunting from daylight till for about an hour, hour and a half, and that's about it. And then they might come back right before dark, same thing, just to try to get their dogs, stretch the legs a little bit, get them moving a little bit. And then once you get into October, November, especially end of October into November, December, January, February, that's kind of peak time because...
Well, let me ask you this, Jason, for the sake of the audience as well. If I have a pup or I have a dog that I think that it could be trained, can I bring him out to the MOA?
You can. I mean, if you think they can be trained, I mean, you need to know what kind of dog you have.
Well, I'm going to say German Shorthair or a lab.
If you got a German Shorthair, yeah. I mean, we help people all the time. I mean, obviously, we want them to. Ideally, we want them to be members.
Well, that's what I'm getting at.
But
yes.
People that are members, we've helped a lot of people out in the field from the pup stage, just little things, helping them. One thing I can say about a bird dog is a lot of them, if they have it, they have it, and some of them, if they don't, they don't. It's kind of like it's kind of like an athlete. You know what I mean? Some people aren't the best of athletes, and some people are.
Well, you don't have to bring me into the picture.
Some people are the Michael Jordans of the world, and when it comes to bird dogs, it's the same kind of thing. There's dogs that are really, really good.
Yeah.
There's some that middle.
This
of the
is
pack,
true.
and it's just kind of like. But it's also you get out of that what you put into it. Like it's no different than there's people that. You might be an average baseball player, but if you work really hard, you could be a great baseball player. Same thing with bird hunting. A dog might be kind of average, but if you put the time and the effort in and the dog works and you work with the dog, but that all is a commitment from the dog handler or the owner. The time, the effort, the man hours, and but yeah, we have that availability. We'll have a lot of birds on hand for people that need to do training, but it's very critical before you ever even mess with a bird. Training a dog starts at home.
Yeah.
Sit, lay, here, come here, like here, come here. That's basic commands because before you ever take a dog out into the wild and you're gonna pursue that avenue, a dog has to listen to you at home because it's very critical, especially when you're around firearms, that you can't have a dog just going and taking off or going and...
Well, don't make the same mistake I did. The dog, my pet, as well as myself, we fight over the remote.
Well, it's there's definitely things that you have to do when it comes to training, but when it comes to dog training, that is your very first thing that you have to look at is at home.
Yeah.
You have to train at home.
Now, I know we're going to be in our closing minutes, but let me tell you something, folks. And I'm glad, Jason, you as well as the board members agreed upon having built a reputation for the trout and the different species of trout that we put in. They are, folks, I'm telling you, you got to witness it. They are monsters. We're not engaged into putting fingerlings in. We're not engaged into the natural rainbow size of 6 inch or less. We put in monsters. And Jason, I'm telling you, the pictures I've taken that I show and share those and that's a very expensive ordeal. Like I was telling earlier about creating a program. Keeping it established and sustaining it. Now, I know we put an extra amount of dollars into stocking. Once we start in October, we run that all the way through up until what, April, May?
Yeah, May for sure. If we have special events or whatever, we have a couple actually different groups doing like tournaments next year in the spring we'll set that all up and get them, where they need to be, with some extra stockings. But we do a monthly stocking starting in first Friday of October, and then it's normally the first Friday of every month is the way we do it. We kind of keep it standardized. But we'll start in October. We'll do the 10 Mile Creek section. We'll do the Daniels Run section. I'm really excited about Daniels Run because, like I said, we're doing all this work with habitat improvement. And to your point, it's a lot easier to show somebody, instead of talking about it, when you can take somebody and show them the water flow, show them the bubbles being created with the oxygen bubbles, show them how deep the holes are.
And to get to that product, that took a long journey.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So
but here again, what I focus and see and witness the smiles of, again, I'm going back to that child in a wheelchair. I'm going back to that paralyzed veteran. The inclusion, and then there's, and it was admitted to me, and I'm sure that you've heard about it, that a veteran didn't even know how to fish, or fly fishing particularly. Okay, and after he became accustomed to it, he was well aware of the act that mechanism, that talent.
Well, those things. That's a topic for another day. But
it is.
A lot of this stuff falls back on
what they discover.
Well, yeah, but we've talked about it for a long time, and the VA is well aware that there's issues. Everybody knows there's issues, and they're not right, wrong, or indifferent, which I would say is probably wrong at this juncture. They need to. Some of these things need to be implemented and offered by the VA. A lot of these things need to be offered at the county levels with the veterans organizations there. When you're talking about kids, same thing. We all grew up about Smokey the Bear, prevent forest fires. It's no different with these other things. They know these things exist with PTSD. We know that kids that get astray. We know about kids that don't have mentors. So it's like, Well,
I gotta give credit to our VA director in Fayette County. He did. I gotta give credit to Rolling Thunder. They did. They sponsored in our dog tag program, and we recycled those tags that were whether it be in 5, well, even with the Pennsylvania Vet Pets, they sponsored. Okay, so what we do, folks, is we'll give them the tags and we'll recirculate them as they come. We instead of having an impact on 5, we may have an impact on 20, or we may have an impact on, depending on the activity of the day, which I want to bring out before we...
Hey, Whip, we got to wrap up the show. We got about a minute left.
Okay.
We have some upcoming events. This upcoming weekend is the long-range rifle class. Anybody wants to check that out, check us out on Facebook or our website. We have the car cruise the end of September, September the 30th. That'll also be on Facebook. We're going to make a Facebook event. You and I talked about that, getting this done this week.
Absolutely.
We're running a special for the remainder of the year. You can check us out. You get the rest of 2023 for free, and you get all of 2024. So if you join the MOA now, you get the rest of the year for free, and you get all of next year. It's a heck of a deal.
And I want to add one more thing. Tours are available. If you want to take and come out and visually see what we got going on, please do that. Take advantage of it.
Absolutely. So you can join at MarianaOutdoors.com. Again, MarianaOutdoors.com. 2024 membership is now available. You get the remainder of 2023 for free. Please check us out we have Facebook, we have Instagram, our YouTube channel is up. We have tons and tons of videos now, educational videos, habitat, conservation, the things that we're doing in general. But, please, as Whip said, come check us out for a tour. On final note, special thanks to Wild Acres Farm, Mariana Outdoorsman Association, and also the Washington County Tourism and Promotion Agency. Thanks, Whip, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you, too.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks so much on WMBS Uniontown.